welcome to the Nick of Time podcast. I'm super excited. Definitely a very special guest we have for you today. An Odessa native. He played at Odessa High. He was a star football player at Odessa High and baseball. He got drafted out of high school to the New York Mets, right? Played football at Texas Tech, guns up. As a Longhorn fan, that's hard for me to say, but for this guy, I'll say it. Guns up. He was also a member of the Rams. I believe their last year in St. Louis and played a little bit in LA. Was also a member of the Detroit Lions. So his resume definitely speaks for himself. He goes by the name Mr. Bradley Marquez. Bradley, you want to say something to the people? A little intro. I know I just gave you one, but anything I missed?
No, it's all good, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on and everything. I enjoy doing these things, and me and you to kind of connect. It's been some years, so always all good and all love over here. So just looking forward to it, and have a good old conversation today.
All righty, let's get into it. And I forgot the two most important things on his resume. We didn't even say husband and father. That's probably at the top of the resume for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Alrighty, let's get into it, man. So, but an Odessa native, right? Let's talk about growing up in Odessa. I know you're a couple generations ahead of me, so tell me, what was it like growing up in Odessa, Texas?
It was good, man. To others that aren't from here and stuff, and probably from bigger cities, they'll probably have a different opinion about it. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time growing up, and especially in the area we did. Felt like you had a good little transition from that old, the 90s and kind of realizing everything going on early 2000s type of deal where it transitions to all the technology and everything like that. So small town, so it was good to have the friendships and bonds with all, playing throughout youth sports, going to school, junior high, stuff like that. Everybody, even that went to different schools, pretty accessible. Everybody's pretty close. So we ain't the smallest town, but obviously that was enough I felt like to do growing up and really enjoyed that. So obviously I lived in bigger cities since, but this place is always gonna be home to me. So a lot of just hardworking people, obviously oil field that's huge out here. So and we love our football, that's for sure.
Oh yes, for sure, for sure. I was telling Gabe, I think we were talking about it the last podcast. I was like, because he joined and ended up moving around a lot. And when I joined the Air Force, they sent me overseas, and I was there for about 5 years, And I love my time over there. I've been to 20 plus countries, and every time I would come visit, right, it was special because it's like my family's here, my friends are here. Like, it was very special. But then when you get back, right, people are like, man, I can't wait to leave. Like,
Right.
I gotta get out of here, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I know you can relate in that sense, you know what I mean? Going off to Lubbock and then, in your pro debuts in both sports and always traveling and moving around that. You do realize as much as people like to talk down on it, home will always be home.
Absolutely. I think people really do miss that part of it, and I guess you don't really know it if you haven't really left, obviously. So everyone just sees all Instagram posts and everything. People are in LA and Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Florida, stuff like that, and everyone's always, I can't believe you came back or whatever. I can't wait to get out of here. This is exactly like you said, but it's like you don't know until you get out of here. Like, these were where my family and friends are. I had a son when we living in LA. That's my first son, Cash. And it's like, it was great and we enjoyed it. But all we had was friends out there. We had zero family in the LA area. Closest was Arizona. So it's like, yes, we enjoyed it and everything like that, but it just, family hits different. You're only spending, seeing your family a couple times a year and stuff like that. So I think that to me is more living, like the memories you create with your family and enjoying people's company. So but people realize that, I guess, that once they get out of here, this isn't a bad place. You know what I mean? Especially if your family's still here, but obviously if you got family elsewhere, in Dallas or something, I could see that being an option as well. But it's just nothing like being home for me, and I've enjoyed it. I moved around, like you said. I've lived in multiple different bigger cities, college, kind of been on the move for a little while now. So it's nice to kind of just settle back down, with my roots.
For sure. I tell this story to a lot of people who are in the Air Force who may have never been overseas and whatnot, and they always think I'm rubbing it in. But my first base was Korea. I was there for 12 months. I went from Korea to Germany, and I had friends that I was stationed with in Korea. They got there to Germany a few weeks before I did. And so once you first get there, you're kind of in processing, paperwork, admin stuff, and then you start work. So that first weekend, I was in that like in processing phase, and I had a friend that had been there 2 or 3 weeks already. He's like, "Hey man, do you want to go to Paris?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, that'd be nice. Like, when are you thinking about going?" He's like, "This weekend." And I'm like, "Okay, I just got here. I'd spent a lot of money on leave, like going home and stuff." I was like, "Well, how much is a plane ticket?" He's like, "No, we're driving." I said, "How long of a drive is that?" I said, "We're in another country." He's like, "It's 2 hours." And I said, "Say less." I said, "I'm in." You know what I mean?
Right.
And that Friday, we were on our way to Paris, and then we get there in the evening time frame. And we were staying pretty close to the Eiffel Tower, and I remember we checked into where we were staying at, and we go to the Eiffel Tower. It's a group of us, and
Mhm.
I look up, and I had like that wasn't ever a dream vacation of mine ever,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But I look up and I see the tower lit, and I'm just like I like shell shocked, and I was like stunned. I couldn't even really move or talk, and I was like, people go their whole lives wanting to be here,
Right.
and I'm essentially doing it on the military's dime.
Right.
And then the second thought that came to my head is, what would I do to have my mom standing right here?
Yeah.
Right. And then when you go back to that's what makes Odessa so special, right? It's obviously people.
Right.
So it was a nice journey and seeing all these things and going to Switzerland. Oh, my bad. Switzerland, Amsterdam, places, all these different places, right? But I didn't get to experience it with the people, I cared about the most.
Right. Yeah.
And that didn't take away from any of those experiences. But again, it's like you said, home will always be home.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about growing up. Let's kind of segue into the football a little bit.
Hmm.
Tell me about your love for football and baseball and just sports in general. How did that start?
I mean, since I can remember, I guess they said, when I was younger, just always playing with any type of ball I could get my hands on, throwing and stuff like that. So started T-ball at 3. I think you got to be like 4, I think. So we just lied. Said I was 4, so I could get in a year early, I guess. And
Yeah.
I held my own, obviously, but yeah, I started with T-ball, and obviously just growing up a huge sports fanatic, and then kind of getting into the whole junior high. I never played flag football and stuff, and then got
Yeah.
into to elementary, and that's when 4th grade at the time for us. That's when you start tackle. So that was my
Hmm.
first experience getting into sports, and I actually almost didn't even play my 4th grade year because we were late on like the registration, and I think it was like $100 at the time, 120 or
Yeah.
something, and we didn't pay in time or something. And there was a deadline that we didn't even know because we'd never played before, or nobody had really played. And so anyways, we almost missed
Yeah.
it, or they ended up letting us in and stuff. So was able to play for my school, which was awesome. I enjoyed that. That was my first taste. Played a little bit of basketball as well at like the Boys and Girls Club at Woodson too. So that's kind of when I was really getting busy with sports and everything right around that time, and playing travel ball and travel baseball anyways. This was before I knew anything about AAU and all these traveling football circuits that these kids get into now. Because I mean, it's
Yeah.
huge, and I'm like, I can't even imagine. Like I was already 4th grade, however year old, and the only thing I had traveled to do was playing baseball, and that's kind of just talking like Hobbs and maybe one Dallas tournament, playing in Andrews and stuff like that. So I think that's real crazy to like see like the evolution of all the game now to where it's at. It's like this kid's playing tackle at like 1st grade, and all these youth,
Yeah, for
what I'm
sure.
saying? Like it's just
Yeah.
a whole. They got organizations now. I'm like, that wasn't even a thing. I played for the Ireland Falcons. Like that was my school. That's what I played for. I didn't play for no,
Yeah.
Horned Frogs at a Midland organization or something like that. So that was just sports, man. And then junior high, I played everything: track, cross country. I mean, you do it all. And then high school just kind of narrowed it down, man, to start playing just football and baseball. because I made varsity as a freshman. So that was kind of weird too, because your freshman years, we were in junior high, which I guess now is now
Yeah,
middle
for
school.
sure.
So I mean, but some people might not, because it's pretty much, it was this area only. So ninth grade, going and playing at the high school level, but then going back to school at the junior high, and like that was an experience. And that's kind of why I quit basketball, honestly, because my coach made me decide between varsity baseball or basketball practice. And I'm like, ninth grade basketball practice over high school varsity baseball practice? Like, yeah, nah, that's not even comparable. So I'm out. So that's when my basketball career ended. And then obviously played baseball and football as long as I could, and getting drafted and going through that process of recruitment in college. Not really sure which sport I really wanted to just, pour my all into. So bought myself some more time to be able to do the dual sport thing in college for a little while, and obviously ultimately, achieve my dream of playing in NFL. But going back to it, I mean, my biggest dream in general growing up was to play professional baseball or football or whatever sport it may be at the highest level. That was my first goal. Whichever one it was, it is what it was. And I was happy to say that, I was able to achieve both of those things, for a short period of time, but we got there.
That's awesome, man. And of course, the city always was behind you, especially the West Side.
Oh, no
You know
doubt
what
about
I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
For sure. Well, the funny thing is, man, I was always a big fan, because my sister, she graduated in '09. So like I was always like, even though I was younger, I was always like in the loop. You know what I mean? Like I was always at the games, I was always watching, I was always just a big fan. You talk about basketball. I remember my sophomore year is when I quit basketball, and I loved basketball. Like I loved playing, but football was obviously my number one sport.
Yeah.
But I remember going to practice, and like we'd all be practicing, and at that time, I think they were like, "Yeah, we'll just put you on JV as a freshman." Which at the time, I was like, "That's fine." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. I'm gonna work my way up. I'm gonna show it. And we were in practice. When you get like disrespected in practice, like it's just like I don't know if just overlooked. And I'm not talking about overlooked from a talent perspective. I'm talking about overlooked from an effort perspective.
Right,
Like I'm putting in work, and then
Right.
like getting disrespected. I was like, you know what? I was like, some of y'all on this team are scrubs, even on the varsity. I was like, I'm not about to take this. And I told the coach, I was like, hey, I think I'm just gonna do the whole like football thing. And they're just like, some words were said, and I was like, that's all I needed to know. I know how you feel about me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, my basketball dreams died my sophomore year.
Yeah.
But my second question to that would be like, when did it hit, whether it be baseball or football, where you're like, whoa, maybe I could really like take this somewhere?
I mean, probably when I got my first offer.
Okay.
I had my first offer from Oklahoma, and that was my
Okay.
sophomore year. And so that was the first day they could actually offer at the time. And I was like, I mean, I knew
Hell of
I
an
was,
offer.
yeah, I know, especially the
What
first
the
one. And
school?
then
Yeah.
then the very next day it was like Tech, and then so I had three. Like as soon as that little period started, it was like within 2 days, those were the first three to come in. So that was special for me, because that was first time I felt like, I wasn't doing it for recognition. I just enjoyed playing. Honestly, I just loved growing up watching high school football. I grew up a huge UT fan. So that's where I grew up. Huge Vince Young fan, and I watched all those UT games, baseball games, and stuff. Even went to the College World Series at one point to watch Texas when they were there. And so it's just one of those things where it's finally I was like, it just kind of happened. I just went, and I enjoyed playing my first year of varsity football, and the whole Friday Night Lights thing. And I mean, I just saw, I was good at it. And so obviously once those offers came in, I'm like, wow, I'm getting recognized out here. And that was another thing too. It's like, I always thought there in the beginning was like, man, do I need to go to Permian to get some exposure to be able to get to the next level and get recognized? But then, from, my closest family and stuff and everybody else, and people that cared about me, they're like, if you're good, that they're going to find you. They'll find you if you are. So that turned true, at that time. And obviously once the offers start rolling in and everything, and you get to the whole recruiting process and getting to visit these schools and stuff, that's when it was kind of surreal to me. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I can't wait, just to get to college now and show them what I can do there and stuff like that. And then from a baseball perspective, I mean, I always love playing baseball, but I feel like it's not as popular out here, so I wasn't really sure how much notoriety or recognition I was getting out here. So until after I went and played in Dallas for a summer for this select team, and it was guys from all over Oklahoma, Texas, West Texas, East Texas, and we had a really good team as well. So that's where once I got back from that summer, that I was getting a lot of recognition in baseball as well, like seeing scouts at games and answering questionnaires and meeting scouts and stuff like that. So at that point in time, I think it was probably accelerated probably to go into my junior year and stuff. Like everything was kind of full blown at that time, like blowing and going, and knowing that start dwindling down the list where you're going to go to school and stuff like that. But I'll just say probably around that time is kind of when it all started becoming more of a reality than just a dream at that point.
For sure. And I know like it's been a while since that time, but do you ever think about, obviously you weren't the first to do it, but the first to do it in a long time, especially from Odessa, but especially going to Odessa High. Do you think like being that pioneer for, hey, you can make it to the highest level of football no matter what school you go to, does maybe not now, but did that ever cross your mind, either during that time or as you got older? Like, I'm really inspiring, people, generations to come.
Yeah, I mean, I take a huge sense of pride that I was able to do that from Odessa High, and they kind of, because like I said, I questioned myself in the beginning. Like, I need to go somewhere else to go get recognized, and that's not reality for a lot of players. Families can't pick up and move. It's not that easy, and you got school zones and things of that nature. And that's my school. That's a high. I'm born and raised on the west side and live right down the street. So it's just one of those things where people like, because there's not that many people that come out of Odessa High, you're like, I can't do it. They don't, there's been guys that have come through there that don't get recognized, stuff like that. So I take pride in just kind of being hopefully somewhat of an inspiration to some that like, you can make it wherever you're at, even smaller schools than Odessa High. I know we're 6A and everything now, but it's like even these smaller schools, I mean, if you're good, they'll come find you. And with the amount of freaking technology these days and recruiting and huddle and all these highlight tapes, YouTube alone, the things that you can do and the amount of people and coaches that you can reach now, it's more of a reality for them now to be like, you can do it. You don't have to go to these powerhouse, high schools and have to move to maybe a bigger school. Like if you're good, and you put in the work, I mean, it's gonna come to you. So like you said, I just take pride in it. I enjoy it. I love that. I could do that from Odessa High and be that kind of voice and inspiration for them.
Awesome, man. I love to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. Last football question, and then we'll segue a little bit. I was actually talking to my coworker about this. When you talk about college to the NFL, right? I have no idea what that's like, but I think because they're big football fans, she's like the biggest Steelers fan I've ever met in my life. Shout out Mackenzie Dunmire. But when you think about college, a D1 college to the NFL, we talk about all the time where everyone always knows big names, right? That have 4-year, 5-year contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest difference between playing D1 football and at the highest level, the NFL? Like when that level goes up, right, everything gets more intense. And right. Before you answer that question, just a little quick story. I was actually in Coach King's office talking to him the day you called him and said you made the roster.
Oh, so, really?
I don't know if you know that, but I feel like we both made it at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was a special time, man. That wasn't nothing like that phone call when I received it myself from Coach Fisher. I mean, we're literally sitting on pins and needles in the hotel. All the rookies and all the work's been put in. We know they're cutting people. We know people are getting called into the office, and like you're hearing people, that rookie group. You go in there, it's like 20, 25 of you, and it's probably only gonna be like 10 that make it or something, And so you're hearing people get called, they're going, and you're like, man, they're gonna call me or they not? And you've already lost some dudes through the cuts and everything. And man, it's a wild feeling. And I see the number come up, and I'm like, damn, like, is this gonna be a good call or a bad one, you know? And I mean, because literally it could have been one a dream crusher or like, wow, like I did it right. And obviously it was the latter. And getting that phone call, he's like, well, you made the 53. And he goes, and you probably just didn't make the 53. You're going to be on the 46, which, you know, you're going to suit up on Sunday. And so, dude, that is like, I can't explain the feeling of that. And so immediately when I get off the phone, mom was the first phone call, like, boom, shedding tears, crying, like, wow, like we did it, you know, type deal. And can't wait. We got to get the ticket. Got to get you out here for this Sunday game and everything. Like, now you're making plans like that. And then, you know, obviously talking with Coach King and everything, calling him as well. And, you know, as well as some other family members and things, just kind of making those phone calls and them calling as well. And everybody, you know, phones blowing up once the kind of the news broke. It was nuts, but like, you know, those people that helped me out, you know, throughout the journey and everything, those were definitely the first phone calls. So those are special to make and definitely a special moment for sure.
I love that,
How's it
man.
going, everybody? Interrupting this podcast very quickly just to give a shout out to two of my sponsors. First one, Double R Hat Company. Gabe Rodriguez, man, he's a good friend of mine. A great hat company, veteran-owned company. They have shirts, they have hats, they have hoodies, mugs, all you can think of. So go check out Double R Hat Co. on Instagram. And now to my second sponsor, I'd like to give a major shout out to my boy Irizarry. His handle is JT underscore Izzy. That's JT underscore IZZY. He is with Evolve Fitness, which is basically one of the best personal trainers I know personally. I've been to over 20 countries, and he gets the job done when it comes to your macros, tracking all of that, when it comes to your fitness plan, whether you're trying to bodybuild, whether you're trying to lifestyle, whatever the case may be. He's your go-to guy. So thank you guys again, and let's get back to
Outside of Odessa, but for the whole city and just West Texas in general.
For sure.
With that, we'll segue into your camp, man. You just had your annual youth football camp. Talk to me about that, man, because I would love to go down there one of these days when I get the chance. I just feel like work is always getting in the way. But talk to me about how that started and how it's going.
Yeah, so I started off. It was after my rookie year or my second year. I can't remember. I want to say it was 2016 summer. Yeah, I think it was after my second year or something like that. But anyway, started it back then. I obviously had buddies in the NFL at the time, and was able to partner with the YMCA at the time. My buddy had kind of brought this up to me and like, let's do a camp or whatever in between our OTAs and training camp. So that's why it ended up being in July. And so even before that, I guess backpedal on that, the very first one I ever did was baseball. I did a baseball camp, and that was good to raise some money for one of my good buddies growing up. He was coaching a youth team, and I was like, yeah, I go down there, we'd put a baseball camp together. We wanted to get some other guys out there as well, but either way, enjoyed it and was able to, you know, just share some things. Just honestly, it's just hanging out with the kids. As long as they're having fun, they can take one thing out of it. Yeah, that's all I care about. And really, if there's anything I would like any kid to take out of any time being around me or like just having fun or whatever, just hard work, because that's how I made it, honestly. Because like you said, going to the next levels, there's even better players, elite gets faster and this, that, the other. But if you're a consistent hard worker, you're either going to get, narrow that gap even more to where you can get to that time, or create that opportunity to where once that time does come that you're ready for it. So just continue working hard. So you never know when it's going to come. And even if you do or don't, it's whatever happens. But so I started that baseball camp, and then that following summer we ended up doing a football camp, and brought some guys out, some of my buddies that I play college ball with, and that were in the NFL too. So that was awesome. We had guys from the Raiders, the Jets, Giants. I really had all types. And then we followed it up the next year, did it again, same situation, brought those guys. And then after that was 2 years, and then I got released and I stopped playing. And then so I was like, dang, that's when I decided to go to baseball. go back to baseball anyway, my second stint in the minor leagues. So I went back. Well, baseball runs during the summer, so I wasn't able to do the camp. So I had to skip the camp that year. Then the next year, the COVID year hit, and then then right after COVID, so that was last year, 2021. Me and Roy Williams, which is who I looked up to growing up. I mean, looked up to him tremendously, and so now that he's back home. Obviously, he's got his companies and things that he runs out here. So we've become real close and part of the same organization, one objective, which is focused on at-risk youth and stuff to kind of, be a vessel and mentor to these kids. And so we decided, let's do it. So he's done some solo. I've done a couple solo. Like, let's do it together for the community, Permian OHS, all this. So we did it last year, and it was good. With the Boys and Girls Club as well. And so got the kids out there, you get them from all over. And then this year, obviously following it up, doing it again. This was our second annual doing it together, which has been fun to just kind of bring it back. And now we're not having as many NFL guys come out here as I did back then. And some of my guys that were in the NFL are no longer in the NFL either. Time constraints with different guys, stuff like that. So it's a little bit tough in that aspect, but the best part that I loved about this last one that we had, which I tweeted about it and stuff, it was literally a community thing. We have the Boys and Girls Club out there. It's me and Roy from West Side, East Side, whatever, different high schools. We had Pride Performance out there from Odessa as well, and went to school and has his own strength conditioning and all that stuff that he does for the youth as well. And then we had Game Ready was out there helping us. We had UTPB football players out there. We had Odessa High football players out there, Warbirds football players out there. Everybody was literally helping. And yes, it was mine and Roy's name on the shirt, but it was so much more because it's literally all these organizations and people that are helping the youth as far as when it comes to sports, especially football, that everybody came together. ECISD lending us, Ratliff, so the kids can put their feet and have a deal on Ratliff Stadium. Because I remember watching from fans. I used to love just watching. Yeah. I'm like, man, when I get to go down there, play a game, and just run around. So I think that's special for the kids as well. So that's what I enjoy, and I appreciate everybody that, or from around here that went out and supported. And obviously, I don't want to forget FCA was out there as well. So that was a part of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I'm sorry, so that's awesome for them as well, to kind of give them some wisdom and guidance in that as well. So and it was just an all-around community thing, and it was great to be out there, and everyone who helped out, I think, had a great time as well.
That's awesome, man. I think to be honest, like mentoring and stuff like that is probably one of the biggest things like we could do, right? Kobe Bryant talked about it, the late great Kobe Bryant, you could be great at what you do, but if you're not passing that knowledge on, and making the generation coming up better, like what are we really doing? So
right.
Much kudos and much respect. I will say you might be missing one thing when it comes to the camp, and luckily I'll be in West Texas after this year. So I might be able to do it if you'd have me.
Oh, absolutely.
I was thinking about this camp, right? And I was like, well, what could bring the community even together even more, right? Obviously you have News West 9 or CBS out there, but actually having like a live like broadcast, like a host, you know what I mean? And going through different sections. Cause I know, for example, one of the churches, I lived in San Antonio. I live in Wichita Falls now, but before I lived in San Antonio, in this North Rock church, there's a big community that I was always going to, and I made a lot of friends out there. So whenever I get the chance, they have their like live YouTube feed, and it's like real time. This is what's happening, and that sense of community, because we live in such a digital age, is still there.
Yeah, for sure.
So for people not being able to make it, or let's say, oil field, and there's a father out there, his kids at the camp, and he's like, on the road somewhere, being able to tune in and live feed and see the kids really thrive and really have smiles on their faces. I think is an awesome idea. But
again,
as
we're gonna take that one, tug it away. We're gonna have to pull it out and use it come next year, because that's the time we like to do it, is in July, right before football season. A few weeks. Summer's kind of hard for some as well. A lot of kids go on summer breaks and stuff like that, but so we try to make it fun and everything. So next July, definitely, we're always looking for ways to make it even better for the kids and everybody in the community as well.
Yes, sir. And I thank you and Roy for doing it. Shout out to Roy William, another inspiration to West Texas and Odessa for sure. Mm-hmm. So with the kids, man, I think there's not really a theme I have in my podcast. It varies on guests. I've had people from military to people, back in Odessa, to people who retired military who are like rowing across the ocean. I know it sounds crazy, but they're literally rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. Mind blown.
Yeah.
But one thing I always ask every podcast, because it's like the thing I'm the most advocate for, especially when it comes to men specifically, but it's everyone, is mental health, man. We talk about the youth, but even, in grown adults, mental health is a big thing. And luckily, in society, it's becoming a more norm to talk about, which I know growing up, it definitely wasn't, it's like, tuck your feelings in, nobody cares, be a man, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And keep going. So what does that mean to you?
Mental health. I mean, I just like you said, man, it's the more attention it's getting now, and everything. It's helping normalize it, because like you said, other people would tuck it away and everything like that. But it is something that I'm way more aware of now than I was. And it's like, it don't matter how strong you are physically healthy. It's like you got to put as much work mentally as you do physically. And I think that would help out a lot. And I think, man, I'll be honest, like, I hated reading. Like, once I got done with school, I'm like completely done with reading. I remember telling some of my teammates in the league, I'm like, you're reading, like, bro, you old head, like, I don't read. Like, I'm not reading. First of all, I read slow as can be, and sometimes I'll read like 2 pages and I won't know what I just read and have to go back. But so I'm a slow reader. So that's kind of one of the things, when you're not using that as much as well, that's helping your mental, as far as like just learning something new, stories, whatever type of books you read, you're just constantly, kind of working on that. And I feel like, obviously social media and everything, and how accessible it is, you forget to kind of train your brain, or so to speak. It's just kind of the same type of situation. But mental health, I mean, everybody has struggles, and as I've grown up, I mean, I've gone through various different struggles, and everybody has their story. But it has been something that I'm hearing a lot more. And obviously hearing the stories and the people, it's definitely an eye opener to me. And it's something that I know is very important and needed in the society and everything. So it's something, never been to, I don't want to call them shrinks.
Therapists.
There you go. I like to call them shrinks. That's a brutal word. Yeah, like a therapist or anything like that. But I can see where the benefit is now in that, and talking to somebody, and really it's relationships too, and like confiding in somebody and having somebody to talk to, and about that, especially like you said, for men, it's different, and so I think it's very important for sure.
Yeah, thank you for that, man. Being in the military, I've actually had a friend and people I've worked with definitely who have taken their lives, and I think starting this podcast and certain challenges that I've been doing lately, is I guess connected to that, highlighting that you're not alone, that there's always someone to talk to. You just got to reach out. And don't hold that stuff inside. As a matter of fact, Captain Gallardo, I was stationed with him in Turkey back in 2020 during the pandemic. The late great Captain Gallardo, he's fortunately not with us anymore, and I am doing an Ironman, dedicated in his name, because he was a stud. You know what I mean? He was athletic. Prior Marine, before he was Air Force, he came into the Air Force and ended up commissioning as an officer. And he was just one of the hardest working dudes I know. And even he was struggling with the battle that nobody knew, right? And was performing at a high level. Right. So I really try to just highlight to everyone out there, hey, mental health is important, it's real. And if you ever have anybody that you need to talk to, or if you don't have anybody, please hit me up. You know what I mean? I'll shoot me a message, and it doesn't matter the time or day, and I'm there.
For sure.
But yeah, man, thank you for talking about the mental health. Another segue. Let's get into the Bullcorn sports, man.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that. I've listened to some episodes. I love what y'all got going on. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so we tried to do a podcast before the pandemic started, me and some buddies, because we're always talking sports. The amount of times I get around some buddies and stuff, sports gets brought up in some way, some shape, form. There's some type of disagreement, back and forth, So one day when, I've become a fan of podcasts, I've been listening to them for a while, never did them myself. And once, I'm listening, I'm like, the more and more that kept coming out, different types and styles, I'm like, let's try this. So we tried it one time, and it lasted like 2 episodes, and which we never put out because the mics weren't working this time. And then the next time, like only half the dudes showed up. And so like, anyways, put it on the shelf. But this most recent, earlier this year, buddy, that's on Bullcorn, Chris, him and Sammy, they had been talking that they've been wanting to do it, and who we did it with last time was my buddy Patrick. The late great Patrick Rodriguez, my buddy. One a good friend of mine as well. That's who we started that first podcast with, but we didn't put no episodes out. Well, it was his nephew that did all the audio and all the stuff, and he had all the podcast equipment too because he'd been doing it. Well, so anyways, he said he's been wanting to do it, and he's always had the equipment. He's never found anybody consistent enough to do the podcast with. And so once again, Sammy and Chris, they like called him up, hey, let's do a podcast. They're like, awesome, yeah, I'm in. And then they're like, well, let's get Brad in it too, because we hang out anyways. They're one of the ones that hang out with and talk sports too. Let's bring Brad in it. Okay, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I've already kind of started this, and I see how podcasts go. I think we need somebody that's like really, really good on the mic. That's how Dom came into it, which is our host, our little 4A freight train. He hosted it, so that's how he came on board so to keep the show rolling and on pace and what needs to be said and stuff like that, and segues. He's really good with that. And then with Eric, host, he just wanted to be there, watch it live, listen to it live. So we're just hanging out, man. The 6 of us just hanging out, talking sports. And so we're just like, the first episode, and how are we gonna do it? And Chris and Sammy had the great idea. They're like, let's talk local, because that's niche. There's nothing out here that talks local sports out here other than our news, which some people watch or whatever, or they're waiting for the certain segment that they're looking for. There's not a podcast out here. There's just OA. You got to pay for it these days. To pay for it to read the articles, and people aren't doing that anymore. So there was a time, like oil field, people driving all the time around here. It's cool to just listen to some local stuff and have some local opinions, and people know what that restaurant is that we're talking about, that El Taco or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's just people elsewhere wouldn't know that type of stuff and humor. So that just kind of combined that, as well as talking pro sports and the stories I got. And, obviously I've met and been around a lot of great athletes and have great stories and stuff. So that's kind of just how it went about. And I mean, now I think we just dropped episode 19, I believe. And then we dropped it, and now we're going to do 2 parts just to have a local football section. It's all local. And then we'll have our pro talk where we're talking, everything about pro, everything you see on ESPN type of stuff as well. And so that's how we did it. And, it's been fun so far. And it's definitely been, I think, a breath of fresh air for us to be able to get together once a week, kind of cut it, do it. A couple of days later, start hearing it back, hear all the feedback and everything we get it from everybody. It kind of keeps us, intact with the community as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. And y'all are doing a great job. And shout out to Dom and everybody over there, because he is a great host. He's good with his words.
Right.
I think that's kind of how this started. Not in that exact way, but I remember, I'm always talking all my military friends in different places around the world, literally.
Yeah.
And they always talk to me about like how I like a way with words, right? Because when it comes to I think it was like my 4.5 year mark, my 5 year, I became a supervisor. As a supervisor, I was always able to relate to different types of people. Obviously, me being a mixed kid, and not just making it about race, but just being able to talk to people. And that football leadership that we talked about, right? There's a different scope of people, and people don't take feedback all the same way. Everyone takes it differently. And to try to motivate, or not so much motivate, but to try to get one team, one vision, and everyone on the same page, it takes work. And I was always kudos to that, right? Like, hey, you're the guy to rally the troops and really get everybody going, whatever the case may be. And I had a friend, we always listen to a bunch of different podcasts, always talk about it. He was like, why don't you ever start your own? And I was like, man, I gotta buy the mics, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I was like, I'm moving around all the time. Like, I'm not gonna be able to have somebody with me, whatever the case. He was like, okay, well, give me another excuse. And then that next day I was like, you know what? I was Googling, I was like, well, can I do a podcast without this? Can I do a podcast without that? And then Zoom, luckily, you know what I mean? You can screen record and do it this way. And I literally edit all my own videos. Like, I learned how to do that. It's not like big fancy production, but we don't need that,
Right now,
the power is in the words, not
for sure,
not in the production. So that's kind of how this started. And I don't have a set schedule. I try to do it when I can, and then obviously I reach out to people and trying to do people's schedules and stuff like that. Like, it's difficult, but I just try to keep at least a decent ball rolling. I think me and Gabe did one like 3 weeks ago, so I try not to go like more than a month for sure. A month is way too long, but man. So keep doing what y'all are doing, man. I love what y'all got going out there.
For sure,
so,
man. You too.
What we're gonna do is I'll ask you 3, or technically 2.5, but 1 to 2 part question. We'll do 3 fan submission questions, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll get you out of here. All right.
Alrighty.
I have to read them because it's kind of difficult. So, if you could travel to any time period in all of history, what time period would you travel to? Ooh. Just to be a fly on the wall.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall?
Yeah, I can't see you, just so you could see for your own self what it was like back then.
Oh, man. Dang.
I know it's kind of a curveball. I didn't send you this, but
I don't want to go too far back.
Hey, but if you go far back enough, we're the kings. You know what I mean? If you go far back.
But that was going down. Maybe they're fighting a freaking the freaking
a Tyrannosaurus. You know?
Go see one of them.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you a time, honestly.
We'll go with draft day. How about that? Or not draft day, but the signing day. Whenever you got the phone call from Coach Fisher. How about that?
Yeah, I'll tell you this: if I wanted to if I wish I was a little bit older in a certain time zone or decade or whatever, I would say the '90s. I was like high school in the '90s, like Movie Miles, and I feel like the '90s was hot, man. I knew I was born and raised through, but if I was an adult, like my parents in the '90s, I think that'd be dope. Like the fashion was on point, the music was on point, technology. Like, they had the beepers and stuff. Like I think that'd be dope.
That's awesome, man. I still to this day, man, '90s R&B. We'll make a man move a certain type of way. You feel me?
Right. Yeah.
We'll make a man move a certain type of way. They don't make it like that no more. You know?
Exactly.
For sure, man. So next question. It's kind of a 2-part question. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
The worst piece of advice. Now let's start with this. The best piece of advice you've ever received.
Oh, the best piece. Whew.
I know there's a lot, but what? Something that comes to mind.
It comes to mind. I think I don't even know who. Maybe I learned or whatever, and this might not even be the best one, but just kind of what comes to mind is kind of to like worry about yourself and like your growth and like what can you do to be better and your hard work and you in the classroom, and stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. And be like, oh, this person does this good, this person does that great, or this person not. We're not constantly judging, people. Like, worry and see what you can do to benefit. And me being sports background, like, what can I do to benefit the team? It's not because he showed up late to practice. It's what can you do to help, and are you doing all that you can do to help the team? So you can't cast judgment on everybody else. And it's like, what can you to be your absolute very best? How can you be your absolute very best at every given time, whatever case it may be?
Control what you can control and don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah,
I like that.
Sure. Yep.
So don't think too hard. Worst piece of advice you think you might have ever received?
Worst piece of advice? Okay, that's with these hard questions.
No, that's the last fan submission question, and then
worst piece of advice. I mean, to just give it up. I mean, I think that's the worst thing you can tell somebody, or a kid, or anybody, to just give it up. I mean, I've definitely heard it. Everybody wasn't a believer in me. And so there's always going to be somebody hating, so to speak, on you. And so it's like, and don't even worry about them, and they're hating for a reason, or whatever it may be. So, and actually one does come to mind, and I know very well who was everything. And he had said, I'm never going to be anything. And I remember that, and was able to prove him wrong. Like, he's not as good as he thinks he is in that type of situation. So it's just that casting that type of vibes and energy towards anybody that you would tell or feel comfortable with saying that about somebody. So I think that's definitely the worst advice.
Yeah, it's like mad disrespectful to say that, and it's just fuel to the fire. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Chris Brown. Like Chris Brown said, "Look at me now." Oh,
right. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so now we're on some closing questions. We're done with the fan submission stuff. All right, I did send you this, so you better be ready. 4 people, dead or alive, at the dinner table. Who is going to eat dinner with Brad?
Okay. I'm a huge LeBron fan, so I'm gonna say LeBron.
That's one.
For sure. I did look at the question then. I'm gonna say Michael Jordan, 2.
MJ. Okay. 2 more.
Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King.
I like that. Muhammad Ali's in mine, so we have that in common. That's good, yo. That's a good dinner. I like that. That's so dope. I appreciate you asking that. So, last question. It'll be a good one. Who would you want to see next on the Nick of Time podcast?
Yeah, I ain't got nobody off the top of my head, man.
I'm just gonna put you on the spot like that. You know what I mean? You've been in more pressure situations. Trust me, I know you have.
Man. You're right, but it's like it's such a huge amount of people and everything. I think probably like my college buddies, Kenny Williams or Jason Morrow. Those are my boys.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
okay.
Going with the college, and then in the alternate, I would say Dom. I'd like to hear some of Dom's stuff too. He's always got some off the wall stuff. But yeah, my buddies Kenny Williams, Jason Morrow, they kind of come to mind.
Already, so you're gonna have to help me with Kenny, Dom, and you're gonna have to help me with getting them on the podcast. If that's not too much already, I appreciate that. Yeah. So lastly, we'll close it out. I usually just give this time to share any piece. It could be advice, it could be something funny, it could be something inspirational, whatever the case. Just kind of to let you free speakly, and also ask you, how did it feel to do, I guess, this podcast? Because I know different people, they always are kind of reluctant to. I know you're not, because you have your own podcast.
Right, yeah.
people get so reluctant to do this, and I'm like, no, your story or whatever you have to offer is so perfect, and people need to hear this. And then they're so reluctant that once they do it, they're like, oh man, that was so much fun. I had such a good time, whatever case.
Yeah.
But closing remarks from Brad.
Yeah. So I mean, with that, I mean, everybody has a story. Everybody's got a story that's interesting in some type of way. It may not be interesting to everybody. It's interesting to somebody. Everybody's life's different. There are similarities as well. So that's why I love podcasts, because people can be free and open, and you know, you can get to know somebody outside of what you think or what you thought about them, and you can kind of cast your own narrative, how your own story is, you know. So that's what I would tell to anybody that's reluctant, you know. Everybody, and you don't have any more stories than I have, you know what I mean? Like, we all have great stories. You just got to jog your memory and tell them, or whatever it may be. Someone's interested in it, and you know, because everybody's lived and gone through different, you know, triumphs and tribulations. So that's what I got to say on that. And then yeah, just tune in to Bullcorn Sports, and you can hear some more. Got stories. We're on once a week, and we're on all streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, at Bullcorn Sports, on all social media, at Bullcorn Sports 1 on Twitter. And yeah, feel free to jump in the chat, and we're gonna try to have some videos and stuff coming out too. So that's why this is dope to do as well. I've seen some of your stuff with Gabe and everything on there as well. So yeah, just tune in, and you know, it's something I enjoy doing, and it's just my free time to just kind of get away, and that's why I enjoy like doing other people's podcasts, and being invited to share other stories as well. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for making the time. You played football at the highest level. You're doing big things back in Odessa now. You're even a better husband and father, and it shows for sure. Trust me. If anybody notices, I notice. You know what I mean? You've been a big inspiration, and definitely someone to follow and look after, and maybe even surpass. You know what I mean? Who knows coming up who that next person's gonna be? So kudos to you, man. I hope the family's doing good. I think September, I'll be in Odessa for a while. September, maybe we can grab a bite to eat or whatever the case. But again, thank you, man. I appreciate the time. Yeah, I'll definitely hit you up. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate y'all. Brad, I hope you have a good night, man. Take care. All right.
Appreciate it.
Goodbye,
Thank you, everybody. Yep, appreciate it.